With David Boyle's definition of an ET in mind, we will try to understand the nature of alien abductions. What happens when a person is taken? Is there anything that can be done? We put these questions to our experts.
Well, when we talk about abductions, it's a very tricky subject in the sense that as a researcher I was well aware of the reports coming from America, from Canada and from various parts of Europe. Some fantastic cases, but I personally had not investigated them. So I kind of reserved judgment until 1992 when a case came to my attention that just blew me away, which totally took me off the proverbial sceptical fence. It's a big case. Very, very briefly, what happened was that on the evening of August the 18th, 1992, Gary Wood and Colin Wright were leaving the built-up town of Edinburgh, city of Edinburgh, in their car to travel to their destination of Tarbrax. Now, Tarbrax is a very small town in West Lothian. And they travelled, as they left Edinburgh, they travelled down the A70 road. Now, as the A70 road left the built-up city of Edinburgh, it went out into fields. It was just like wilderness, you know. It was just like fields on either side, a little house here, a little house there, in the countryside. Driving down. These guys had no interest in UFOs whatsoever. Yes, they've read about it in newspapers, they've seen the odd thing on the TV, but they had no interest in it. They're driving down the road. And then Colin says to Gary, "Gary, what's that?" And about 300 to 400 yards further along the road, the stretch of road, they saw this black disc-shaped object hovering silently above the road, about 20 feet above the road. They knew that this was not a conventional aircraft, this was not a conventional helicopter of any shape or description, and they didn't know what it was. Now, rather than stop the car and go back the way, they decided that the best course of action was just to put their foot on the gas and just dive underneath this object and just get away. They didn't like it. They just felt, this is not right, there's something strange, there's something bizarre here. So if you can imagine, my hand here is a UFO, this other hand is the car. As the car was directly underneath this object emitted like a heavy silver shimmering snowflakes. Like heavy silver snowflakes, it descended and hit the car. As soon as this effect hit the car, both men were catapulted into inky and total blackness. They couldn't see their hands in front of them, they couldn't see the dashboard of the car, they couldn't see each other. My God, are we dead? That's what they thought, they were dead. Seconds later, or what appeared to them to be seconds later, they regained their sight. They could see the dashboard of the car was shuddering violently on the road, and they just screamed to they didn't stop, they screamed to their destination of Tarbrax. They knocked on the occupant's door and she says, "Where have you been? You're an hour and a half late." Now the journey should only have taken them about 35 minutes, and they were an hour and a half later than that time. They proceeded to tell the occupants that there's a strange thing that they had seen on the road. Now that night, and subsequent nights later, they found scars on their body that previously were not there. They had these strange dreams of this horrible face came into their dreams. And then Gary says to himself, surely this cannot be one of those crazy UFO stories. Could it? Has something happened to us? What do we do? This is bizarre. What do we do? What happened next was that the best course of action they took was to go to their local library. And they picked out a book. They went to the UFOs and paranormal section, picked out a book, came to the back of the book and saw all the addresses in the UK. They saw our society was the only Scottish address in that book. They telephoned me, they came to my house, and I listened to these guys. I says, look, I listened to their story, both men, I listened to their story. I says, look, would you be okay to go under hypnotic regression? Why? Because perhaps, and it is a big perhaps, something else may have happened that night. Are you prepared to go under hypnosis to find out? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll try anything. We just need to know. Malcolm, we need to know what happened, because even our own wives don't believe us. Family don't believe us, but we know. We know something happened. Yeah, we'll try hypnosis. Now, hypnosis, I said to him, look, you may not like it. Why? Because it's like lifting the sluice gates of the mind. If anything did happen that night, you may not like it. We'll try it, we'll try it. So to cut a long story short, we used a qualified hypnotherapist. We took the guys gingerly back to that August evening, and the typical abduction scenario unfolded. This is what happened under hypnosis. They were driving down, as I said a moment ago, in the car, everything's fine, listening to the radio. They saw the object, and then the blackness. Under hypnosis, we moved that blackness away, and they claim, sounds bizarre, it sounds crazy, they claim that they saw these small creatures walking along the road towards their car. Roughly about 3.5 to 4 feet tall, small childlike body, large pear-shaped heads with black inky almond-shaped eyes. And they opened the door and took both men into this object. UFO, call it what you will. They took them individually into this object, and individually they took them to separate rooms. Gary found himself lying on this flat raised table. They stripped him naked and subjected him to some medical or clinical examination. It sounds bizarre, but it typifies what other people have claimed to have seen. Now Gary, he's a rough and ready character, a lovely, lovely man, and he says, Malcolm, I had no control whatsoever on this craft. I says, what do you mean? Malcolm, I was lying there on this table and I really wanted to hit one of these wee guys, but I couldn't do anything. The story is immense. I asked him to come forward to the public because we needed to know if there were any similar cases in Scotland. There was quite a few. As I said earlier, his wife didn't support him. His wife didn't really think that there was any substance to her husband's claims, and he was a wee bit upset about this, until one night I took a phone call in my house from Gary Wood's wife, and she says, Malcolm, can I apologise to you? I says, why? Well, you know how I haven't supported my husband, and well, I just didn't believe his story. Well, last night I was lying in bed next to my husband. Gary was asleep. I was reading a book, put the book down on the bedside cabinet, switched the light off, and about 30 seconds later something was pulling me by the ankles down the bed. Now my head was on the pillow, and now my head was on part of the bed, and I looked and I saw two small grey creatures at the foot of the bed who just waddled back into the wall and disappeared. Now I 100% believe my husband. Just to finish his story, because it is a massive story, the BBC employed a chap who did a lie detector test on Gary Wood, and he passed it. He passed it with flying colours. And this is a top guy from the BBC. He says, Malcolm, he says, this, you know, there's no way that this chap is lying. What he said has happened to him. That is a big case in Scotland. I've only scratched the surface of it, but that case took me off the sceptical fence. I now firmly believe that mankind is dealing with some form of non-human intelligence. It's always been with us. It probably will be with us forever.